president-elect is also focusing on picking his cabinet and his advisors, and on day one pledges to put his team to work. Randy Kaye tonight has a look at what's on the Trump agenda.
Don't expect Donald Trump to ease into his new job as president.
It's going to be a very busy first day.
Day one, President-elect Trump plans to take action on everything from ISIS to immigration.
On day one, I'm going to begin swiftly removing criminal, illegal immigrants from this country.
Trump vowing to start the process of getting rid of what he called gangs of thugs within 1 hour of taking office.
The first piece of paper that I'm going to sign is we're going to get rid of these people. We are going to get rid of them day one. We start day one.
Along with that, Mr. Trump also plans to start work on the wall at the southern border to keep illegal immigrants out.
On day one, we will begin working on an impenetrable, physical, tall, powerful, beautiful southern border wall.
Donald Trump is aiming high for those first 24 hours on the job, pledging to repeal all of what he calls Barack Obama's unconstitutional executive orders. He also plans to immediately suspend immigration from Syria and Libya and get his generals working on ISIS.
We're going to convene my top generals and give them a simple instruction. They will have 30 days to submit to the Oval Office a plan for soundly and quickly defeating ISIS.
Day one, Obamacare is a target too.
I'm going to ask Congress to send me a bill to repeal and replace, finally, Obamacare. It's a disaster. Under Senate rules, that bill can be passed with 51 votes. 51! Meaning a Republican Congress and a Republican president can save Americans from this disaster in a single afternoon.
Vice President-elect Mike Pence echoing those promises and more.
He's going to repeal every single Obama executive order that's stifling jobs and growth in this economy. We're going to repeal Obamacare lock, stock, and barrel. And lastly, on day one of this administration, we're going to end the war on coal once and for all.
On the first day of the Trump administration, say goodbye to some gun-free zones, too.
I will get rid of gun-free zones on schools, and you have to. And on military bases, my first day it gets signed, okay? My first day. There's no more gun-free zones.
And if President-elect Trump has his way, NAFTA could go away. Day one, he plans to notify Canada and Mexico that the trade deal he calls a disaster is officially up for renegotiation. An ambitious first day for the president-elect. Randy Kaye, CNN, Orlando.
A lot of promises for the first day made on this campaign, no doubt about it. Back with the panel, David Gergen is joining us as well as we continue to see now demonstrations. This one outside Trump Tower in New York City. It's been moving up north through the island of Manhattan. We're also seeing their demonstration in Chicago. We're also told in Portland, Oregon, also Philadelphia as well. There's there you're seeing in Chicago different sizes in different places. David Axelrod, as you watch this, what goes through your mind?
Well, what goes through my mind is that you reap what you sow, and the fact is that Donald Trump incited and encouraged and mobilized his base by using language and taking positions that deeply offended these people, and as Van says, frightened them as well. And so this is the result of that. I will say, though, that, and I agree, Kayleigh, I agree with the president. I said it last night. We have one president at a time. If you respect democracy, then our first obligation is to try and make this work. There's also an obligation when you have principled differences to fight hard on them, and I expect that will happen as well. But I think the Democratic Party made a mistake by assuming too much about this antipathy to Donald Trump, that somehow it was enough that people were afraid of Trump and that would mobilize the base of the Democratic Party to come out. I think you have to put some of the blame, frankly, on the candidate herself. And I have great respect for Hillary Clinton. Terribly difficult time for her. But you can't just rely on the negative argument. you've got to inspire people. And, Barack Obama inspired people in a positive way to come out and vote. And the other thing I would say is you cannot ignore large swaths of the country and expect to be successful. Democrats have to find a way, as Obama did when he ran in 2008, to talk to white working class Democrats. As John knows, he carried the state of Indiana. He did very well in some of these rural areas, and he did much better than Hillary Clinton did yesterday in those rural areas in 2012. You cannot simply assume that you're going to have enough votes among your base and that you can write off swaths of the country.
And we know in the general election, she did not step foot in the state of Wisconsin. There were a lot of assumptions made because of this polling that these voters were going to come home to Hillary Clinton no matter what, and that women were going to do that too, because Donald Trump was making the case on gender for her.
David Gergen,
Didn't work that
have you
way.
seen demonstrations like this the day after a presidential election in recent memory?
No. And I think we can spend a lot of time, Democratic Party can spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to adapt to the future elections. They ought to be focusing right now on this.
Right.
Because this could tear the country apart. And here we just had an unprecedented election, an unprecedented upset, and now we've got unprecedented protests. And what I think it demonstrates, what it sends home to us, is that the divisions of a very, very poisonous campaign will not disappear with 3 or 4 nice speeches of unity. It's going to take a lot of work to reweave the fabric.
So how does that happen, Van? Because that is, that if anything is to work, no matter what you think of Donald Trump or whatever you think of Hillary Clinton, he is the president of the United States and going to be the president of the United States, and this country has to move forward.
It does have to move forward. This is my view, and I'm tired, and I apologize if I was too hot earlier. The rebels are on the rise, period. The Trump rebellion, the Sanders rebellion, the Black Lives Matter rebellion, before that the Tea Party and Occupy rebellions. Frankly, Obama was kind of a rebellion. Yeah. So the rebels are on the rise, and the establishment is on the ropes. And that is a fundamental fact that you have to deal with. And so had it been the other way around, you would have, this is basically the Sanders rebellion and the Black Lives Matter rebellion in the streets tonight.
That's who
the
these people
structure
are.
of this out here tonight. And so, and there's 3 parts of what you see out here tonight. There are the anti-capitalists and socialists who are against the Democratic Party and everything else. They're actually a minority. They're loud, but they're a minority. Then you've got the Sanders disappointed folks who want better but don't know how to get there, and you've got Black Lives Matter and their sympathizers. That's the structure of this all across the country. We have to find a way to engage with them in their fears, not tell them they're wrong, not tell them that they shouldn't be, but to actually listen. What we didn't do with the Trump rebellion, we should not do with this rebellion.
Yeah, but it's broader than that, I think, Van. Now,
I'm just saying,
I'm very sympathetic with everything you've said. I also think, though, there are a lot of white professional young families who are having a hard time trying to figure out what to tell their kids and how to explain this and how to work with them. I mean, I've gotten emails about that. What do you think we ought to be saying this about that? My grandchildren. And I think this is a very difficult conversation in which we can't just expect Donald Trump to do this alone. Other people have to be constructive here, too, in order to create a new environment, a community that feels more inclusive. Because otherwise, we're going to beat each other's throats. That's what's
also, to expect somebody, Donald Trump, who, experienced leaders, politicians have some experience in this sort of thing. To expect somebody like Donald Trump, who, for all the attributes he has, may not be used to speaking
Anderson,
to something like
this to me, there are lots of ways in which Donald Trump's inexperience will test him. This is a matter of sort of the character of leadership, the character of the person. He can view this 2 ways, which is as a something to organize against, or he can rise as president and say we need to close these chasms and address them. And I listened to Randy Kaye's piece about his first day. Sounds like an active day. I think he ought to think through that agenda a little bit and think about the implications of some of those things on that list in terms of whether it creates a larger chasm or helps close it.
A good
John?
leader adapts to the moment. He had his campaign agenda. Lots of candidates have had an agenda in the
Right, of
campaign,
course.
and then they become president, and they have to do
Right.
something.
I remember
else.
Guantanamo Bay was going to be closed.
Right.
I mean-
Guantanamo Bay was going to be closed. Bill Clinton said he wouldn't do business with the dictators in Damascus and the butchers in Beijing. Candidates say things, and then they become president. It's the hardest job in the world. Everybody so far is saying the right things. Donald Trump gave a very gracious, conciliatory speech last night. Even if you're not a Donald Trump supporter, you should applaud what he said last night. He tried to bring the country together. Hillary Clinton today, the president today, everybody's saying the right things. The question in the next critical 10 weeks, we have 70 days, we have 10 weeks, is what do they do? And this is a test for Donald Trump, and it's also a test for his opponents. Does he see this and say ingrates? Or does he see this and say, I need these people, I have to find a way to talk to them? Could he travel the country and do town halls in this period? There are international leaders who want to meet him before he takes office because they're nervous about what he's going to do in the world. Who he surrounds himself with, the decisions he makes over the next... We talked about this Monday night in our final thoughts, sort of what's going to come. I've never anticipated... The country is so divided. Racial lines, gender lines, education lines, left and right, blue states, red states, that this transition is critically important, and what he does in these next 10 weeks is absolutely important to his start.
We got to take a quick break. We're going to continue to monitor these demonstrations. We'll have more with the panel and our reporters in the field. We'll do that.